Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Good evening. You have reached Black Authors Matter TV, and I am Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight, and my co-host will be joining us later in the show. I hope you all had a very Merry Christmas and looking forward to a prosperous and peaceful 2023. So we have an amazing lineup for you again tonight, like we always do. A couple of housekeeping notes at the top of the show. Our registration for the National Black Book Festival for 2023 opens January 1st. The dates for next year are October 26th through the 28th. It's always in Houston, and we're looking forward to an exciting year. Once again, we've already confirmed best-selling author Kwame Alexander as one of the featured authors for next year, and we're working on a list that we want to have a really solid, impactful lineup. And also the Jerry Pinkney Children's Book Awards, that process also opens January 1st. So you'll be able to access both of those online if you go to the National Black Book Festival.com website for registering as an author for next year. Or if you want to enter the Jerry Pinkney Children's Book Awards, go to jerrypinkneybookawards.com. We didn't want to do children's book, it's making so long for the URL. But jerrypinkneybookawards.com. So we have 2 books to give away, but we'll do that after our first interview. And we have our first guest who will be joining us. And this was an interesting topic. I just thought it was something that everyone would like to know about. Our guest is, and if I don't pronounce your name correctly, just correct me.
Okay.
Nyanyika Banda. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Nyanyika.
Okay. And Nyanyika is from Malawi. And I don't know if I've ever met a Malawi before.
Well, I'm Malawian American, so I was born in the States. But yes,
my father. You were born in the States, but your parents are from Malawi. Yeah. But even so, I don't know if I've ever met anybody that was from Malawi.
We're less represented of the other countries.
Yeah, the small community. Where are the most Malawans in? Is it a particular city or state where they kind of congregate? Like Houston, we have a huge Nigerian population.
Yeah,
like one of the biggest.
Well, there's a strong population in New York, like upstate New York. There's a strong population out in California.
Okay.
But I wouldn't say that there's any one city that has as big of a population as like you would have down south, or where I used to live in Minneapolis, which has huge Somali and Ethiopian populations there.
Okay. Well, your book, do you have a copy of your book with you?
I do. Yes.
Okay. Your book has the Marvel brand on it, and it's called the Official Wakanda Cookbook.
That is true.
I thought, how did that happen? How did that come about? How did you, you're a chef by profession? Is that what you do every day?
Yeah, I'm a chef. I mean, I also am a writer. I have been working in restaurant kitchens since I was 15 years old. But I've also kept a journal since I was about 15 years old as well. So I've always been a writer. And about 10 years ago, I started working towards combining my 2 passions of writing and cooking. And I did an internship at Saveur magazine, where I worked in their test kitchen. So I did a lot of recipe development, recipe testing, and then also it was my entry into the world of editorial work and culinary.
Wow.
So I have a degree, I have a bachelor's degree from the University of Wisconsin that's actually in history and writing, in addition to a culinary degree.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, did you approach Marvel? Did Marvel approach you? How did this book become the Official Wakanda book?
Well, pop culture cookbooks are definitely something on trend right now. And so I was hired via a publishing house called Inside Editions, and they reached out. Well, actually, I belong to an online writers group on Facebook. It's a binder, and I belong to a number of them, a lot of them for female food writers or female writers and editors. And so I answered a call to action that was looking for, ideally, the post said, a Black chef who was female, who had experience in foodways of the African diaspora, in addition to recipe testing. And this was almost a year to the day of me not working in restaurants due to the pandemic. And I reached out and said, I should write I should work on your project, not actually knowing what the project was, but I do have a strong background as in African foodways. Studying the African diaspora is of extreme interest to me, and that's what I focused my degrees on. So I reached out to them, and after going over my CV, we set up an interview, and I signed an NDA. And it was at that moment that I discovered that the project that I was so forcefully pitching myself to work on was actually for the Black Panther.
Oh, okay. Wow. You know, for those out there, I know many people know what an NDA means, but it stands for non-disclosure agreement. And a lot of times people make you sign those, especially if they have something coming out in the future that they don't want the beans spilled about it before it comes out.
Correct.
So,
yes.
Or
so
they don't
as you can imagine, that was a really hard secret.
Right.
But we went through the interview process, and ultimately they chose me. So it was an extreme honor to be chosen. And
that's
and
an
I'm just so
amazing
happy that it's been
opportunity.
really well received and such. Yeah.
That's an amazing opportunity. There was an article about the book. Let me see. It was on marvel.com, but I get Google alerts about books and bookstores, African American literature. So anything new, like on the horizon or something that's meaningful or getting traction or trending, I get the alerts. And so sometimes there'll be something that's really interesting that, I said, this would be an amazing guest to have on the show.
Well, I'm glad you got that alert.
Because I hadn't heard about it otherwise. I hadn't heard. Now, when did the book come out?
So the book came out in April this year.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So was it simultaneous with the movie release or?
No, so the second movie just came out November 11th. So basically what happened was I worked with my publishers and then with Marvel on the project. Basically, I submitted the recipes that I felt would be appropriate for Wakanda and telling the story of Wakanda. And then, they would respond back saying yes or no. And so there was that whole process of really kind of coming up with the storyline that is part of this cookbook. I had the opportunity to create a handful of fictional characters to align with the story of Black Panther and Wakanda. So it took about a year all in terms of that process of me recipe testing, them approving things, and then it going into publication. So it came out in April, but also almost a prequel to now the movie coming out, and a lot of people getting excited to cook Wakandan food to go along with their celebration of the new release.
Yeah, well, our co-host, Dr. Lawson, is on now. I don't know if she had a chance to hear any of the interview so far or has some questions, but I just have so many questions about, like, did you have to, are all these recipes yours, or are these your own recipes that you developed, or is it a combination of other, where the recipes come from?
These are my own recipes. So there's 70 recipes in the book, from condiments, there's street food, there's entrees, breakfast items, there's drinks. And those all are items that I created for what I felt would be like to tell the story of the landscape of Wakanda. Previous to signing this contract, I have been conceptualizing a cookbook that celebrates the African diaspora and specifically my Malawian heritage. One of my father's sisters, my Aunt Rose, was known in the family as the family cook. And so she and I had been talking at the beginning of the pandemic about working together, about compiling some recipes. And she actually ended up passing away, not to COVID, but during the pandemic. And so her passing actually brought me back to Africa for the first time in many years. And so this all happened before I was approached about the book or anything like that. But I was in Africa and, definitely feeling like I still wanted to create that book and compile those recipes. And so the fact that truly a month after me coming back to the States, I was given the opportunity, was really great. And so, it's a celebration of the African diaspora. And so I've gleaned from countries, the Caribbean. There's foods that you would be familiar with, say, as a Southern Black American. There's foods that come from North Africa. Something that a quote that came to me when I was in Africa that my cousin said to me was, and he's Malawian, and he said, Wakanda lives in the heart of all of us. And again, this was a conversation I was having before I even knew I was going to be writing the Wakanda cookbook. But, to be halfway, across the world from each other and still have this connection to this story, it was really important to me to come up with recipes that any one of us children of the African diaspora could feel a connection to.
Wow. Go ahead, Rhonda, because I've already asked
it. Well, I was just going to ask, did you realize, and I know I missed a little of it, so hopefully my question doesn't make you repeat anything.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, when you first saw Wakanda, did you realize it would have the effect on you that it had?
I was in a really interesting place geographically in my life when the first Wakanda movie came out, which was that I was an undergraduate student at the University of Wisconsin-Superior. So my campus was on the shores of Lake Superior, so that's northern Wisconsin. So there were not many of us that looked like me up there. And so when Black Panther came out, it actually only showed in the theaters, I think maybe 2 weekends, like it didn't have a very long running. So everything that I was getting off of that first reveal of the movie was really through the internet. Okay. But the viralness of it was palpable to me as a Black person living in northern Minnesota at the time. So I knew right away when I got the NDA saying it was for Black Panther that it was a huge responsibility also in terms of this story and how important it is for us in terms of where we are right now as a society.
So what are the the categories of foods? I know you said that from different parts of the country, but yes. Did you have it grouped by like the type of meat or, like a traditional cookbook? Do you have desserts in there?
Yeah.
What
I do have the book here because I knew there would probably be some questions and I didn't want to rely solely on my memory. Okay. But the great thing about the way that we have the cookbook lined out is that it's organized a few different times for you. So it's laid out in terms of like breakfast, we have soups and salads, vegetables and sides. And then I also have, it's laid out as dietary restrictions. So you can look and see if you are dairy-free or vegetarian, or if you need gluten-free. That's all laid out here as well. One of the great things about food from the motherland is that a lot of it is naturally fresh ingredients. So a lot of the book is already, a lot of produce, vegetables, grains, a lot of plantains and cassava used in the book. You'll also see recipes for goat, oxtail, lamb, chicken, more foods that you would see in Southeast Sub-Saharan Africa.
Say less. I need the book because you have all kinds of meats that I love. I love goat. I love lamb. So this might be the cookbook for me.
Yeah, well, like I said, hopefully it's a celebration. There's something in it for everyone that reminds them of where you come from.
Is the spice level high on the foods?
You have your option. There's some that definitely are going to be a little bit spicy, but it says that it's going to be spicy there.
Okay.
I will say that there's one dish, for instance, it's a pan-seared lake trout, and a good friend of mine who's from northern Minnesota tried it, and then she posted saying that she would lower the spice a little bit, and I got worried, and so I went back through the recipes to see what spice I had put in. But she was speaking as a Minnesotan, so she actually just meant, like black pepper. So they're definitely, it kind of depends on where your level starts from. But
Okay.
there's a whole range, and there's definitely options to leave spice out for sure.
Okay. In Houston, because we have, and do you have a device? I don't think it's me. I hear like an echo. Do you have another device on? Did you hear it, Rhonda?
I don't hear anything, but maybe it's me. But
I hear
I have Facebook piece on mute, so I don't think it's me.
Yeah, I only have just myself on.
Yeah, but
Okay.
my computer's acting funny. I don't know. Maybe it could be me.
Okay. I don't hear it now, but I was hearing it. See, now I'm hearing it again. Did you hear that?
I do hear the echo, yes.
So I'll have my stuff turned, my phone turned, the sound turned totally off. And then that way, when I hear something, do you have two devices on, Rhonda?
No, I have one device on, but like I said, my computer's acting funny, so it might be what you're hearing.
Okay, well, somebody said the cookbook is gorgeous. It makes a lovely gift too. This is Ellie McKenzie.
Oh, that's so sweet.
She's one of
Thank
them.
you,
I saw that comment as well, and I was going to ask you, did you see maybe a spike in sales during the holidays? Because it does make a lovely cookbook, or excuse me, a lovely gift.
Yes, definitely. I mean, when the book first came out, that I pushed pretty hard for pre-sales. So when it first came out in April, there was obviously, it was on the list, but it has actually, if you look on Amazon, it has yet to leave in terms of African cookbooks, Black cookbooks. It's yet to leave the top 10 since it's come out, but definitely since the movie came out, it's, I've seen a lot more reviews, comments coming through, so that's really great to see.
That's
Wonderful.
good. Now, is this your first book?
It is, yeah.
Oh, okay. And then your first book, you get a deal with Marvel. That's amazing.
Yes, I'm definitly grateful for that one for sure.
Yeah, and the Black Panther. So you got a double hit. And what kind of feedback are you getting from people who tried the recipe?
I've received a lot of great feedback, and that was I would say there's two things that I was really worried about when putting the book together. I mean, as a chef, obviously the recipe's working was one and then the other was the stories that I created that align with Black Panther. I was made aware of the character of Black Panther from the first movie. There are definitely a lot more folks who are devoted Marvel comic fans, and so there is a deep rooted what they call it's a Marvel wiki fandom that's present online, and so I was also very concerned that I was honoring that story in a way that would make everyone happy. So thankfully folks have responded positively to both those things. It's really great to see people tag Wakanda Cookbook. It's still a small hashtag, so if anyone's out there cooking, you can include the hashtag Wakanda Cookbook, just so we can all kind of see what everyone is making out there.
Okay, now show the cover again, and then if you don't mind, show us one of, do you have anything tagged or flagged, like one of the recipes that you want to share in terms of the visual of the food?
Yes.
And just what the food
I can do that. So here's one. Hopefully this shows, but this is one I have yet to see a lot of people. This is one of the more advanced recipes, but it is a cassava ravioli with what do we have here? it's either kale pesto or spinach pesto, kind of depending on what you would want to use. So my family, my actual family in Malawi are farmers, and so in my father's village in Malawi, they grow cassava, groundnuts, citrus. So I also have a strong connection to the nature of the foods that are from that region in that way. So
Okay.
here's another one that's just a salad. It's super simple with mango, pineapple, avocado. Again, just using like fresh ingredients.
Oh, they look beautiful.
Thanks.
Yeah, I cook. I'm not a chef, but I cook for family and loved ones, and I get rave reviews. And
It's a
so
great love language for sure.
it is, and it's becoming a lost art, home cooking.
Well, speaking of beautiful, the photos in the
Yeah.
cookbook are absolutely beautiful. Was there a selection process to finding a photographer to take all of these pictures of the recipes?
Well, that was just kind of one of the good parts about working with Inside Editions is that they have produced a lot of these cookbooks already. And so we used one of the photographers that they had. I mean, I was definitely on the line while she was testing and photographing all of this food. So it was she was on the West Coast and I was on the East Coast, but definitely any time that she was shooting food, she was sending me photos just to make sure that everything looked the way that I would want it to look or have that vision for.
Okay, yeah, because there's some people who specialize in food photography.
It's
And
true.
that's,
Yeah.
That's what they do all the time. And a recipe, the food has to look good when you have a recipe with the cookbook, that needs to look.
Yeah, I know a lot of
inviting.
folks probably had in their mind this idea of like a comic book cookbook. So I know a lot of folks were surprised to see that it actually is. It's a real cookbook. It's not just for your coffee table. All the recipes work, and there's a lot of real kid-friendly recipes as well. So have seen a lot of folks tagging parents cooking with their kids in the kitchen, making recipes out of the book. I've done some cooking classes with high school students. Specifically in Madison, Wisconsin, I did a program where we did some virtual cooking classes with the recipes. So there's definitely something for everyone, skill level wise, and interest in food for sure.
That's just, I find this project to be just very, it's unexpected. I wasn't expecting, because, when you had the first Black Panther, you kind of think you've drawn from the well, almost everything, every angle that there is on Black Panther, because it was so popular worldwide. And then, we lost Chadwick Boseman, which was, a major loss for the entertainment world, and just he was just a really great actor, and so young, he had so many years ahead of him. So to see the cookbook with the Wakanda theme was something different that wasn't available with the first one. Now, with the second one, you still have people going to the theater dressed in their African attire. That was a repeat. People did that, and they posted.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I think it's always, especially post pandemic times, coming together and having that feeling is just, it's just so important in life, and that really, I mean, I know for me personally, when I go home to Malawi, anyone, even if they're a stranger, when I'm always said welcome home upon meeting someone. And so, again, just being children of the diaspora, there is something very unifying. And I think that's what's so special about this movie, right? Is that it was the first time for all of us, we were able to see something cinematically that is a celebration of us and just us. And that's what this book is the intent is also to just be, linear with that in terms of just continuing the celebration,
Well, Ellie McKenzie wants to know if there's going to be a book tour.
Yes, it's going to be a little bit more staggered. I had hoped on doing a tour this fall. but I basically will be starting doing some events in January here locally on Cape Cod. And then I'm going to be moving out west over the next semester. I teach full time right now, so doing a full book tour. It's gonna be a little bit more difficult, but I'm hoping for all of the dates that I had been posted in the fall will be revisited this spring and summer.
Okay, so what do you teach?
I teach culinary arts here on Cape
Oh,
Cod.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I teach culinary arts
culinary
arts
school?
high school students here. So
Okay. Okay. Well,
yeah.
that's great. You get to work with people trying to enter the industry. Now, how
It's
did
very
you?
fun and rewarding. Yes.
I bet it is. One of my favorite shows to watch is Chopped, and I've been watching it for years, meaning like I want to say at least 10 years. I actually became aware of the show because my daughter took a cooking class in high school, and her teacher had them watch the show. And then my daughter told me about it. And I love it because I learned different cooking techniques. I learned some foods, and I've used a few of them. You know, the time frame that they have to cook in is just really like otherworldly.
Yeah. It's not so, it's like, are you setting you up for success? I'm not sure.
And then the ingredients, and and they have to think of something on their feet, and
Yeah.
it's
Well, that's the
amazing.
rewarding part about teaching, is that it's it's an opportunity to bring foods that normally, especially as a high school student, you probably wouldn't even be aware of existed, and so really just like broadening young people's horizons, helping them become a little bit more aware of what they're putting into their bodies and how we can take care of ourselves. Yeah, it's very rewarding, and they get to just see me be a nerd about food because I just love it so much. So it's
Yeah. Now, do you have a follow-on book planned, or what's next for
I am
you as
definitely
your book?
hoping, but I basically just kind of in transitions right now, working on more food stuff for the summer, and then ideally maybe compiling some recipes with memoirs. But I do write freelance, so if you follow me on at Gastroneeks, I contribute to a lot of online food publications.
Oh, okay. It's called
Gastroneeks. So it's a combination of my name and gastro. So at GASTRONYKS.
Oh, okay. NYKS, because I was wondering what it
And is that where they can go to find out more information on when you get ready to start the tour and what's next for you?
It'll be there, and then my Linktree are the two best places right now. So Linktree is just my name, Nyanyika Banda.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, congratulations on an amazing project.
Thank you so much.
Being
Thank you for having me on. It's really, I love talking about it. And, as you had mentioned, you hadn't heard of it and when it first came out. And so, this is definitely, it's a love letter to the children of the African diaspora. So as much as we can get the word out, the better,
Absolutely.
Right. And it's good to, when you have a book, it's good to get like periodic bumps to keep the demand for the book,
exactly
alive.
So thank you for doing this.
Well, congratulations on all your accomplishments, and for a beautiful cookbook. I mean, I think I wanted myself, I think since 2020, a lot of people have been doing their own cooking. So anytime that we can cook healthy and from the soul, that just that's even better. So I'm looking forward to creating some of those recipes.
Oh, good.
And
thank you again. It was a pleasure meeting both of you. So.
Same here, and Happy New Year to you, and continued success.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thanks.
So our next guest, before we do that, before we bring on our next guest, we have 2 books to give away. And so the 2 books we have, this one comes out next month in January. It is called Relations, an Anthology of African and Diaspora Voices So we're in the diaspora. Again, with this book is edited by Nana Akua Brew-Hammond. And Nana was on the show in March. And so the trivia question is, she was on the show in March. She was interviewed for the release of her children's book. What is the title of the book? And you can get this anthology. It's pretty thick. It's all kinds of stories throughout the diaspora. And the second book that we're giving away is The Family Business Too. So this is a hardcover of Carl Weber's series, the second book. So some of you may have read the book or seen the show, and the show is based on the book series. So the question is, on what network does the Family Business show appear? So the first people who get the answer to the questions, you will receive your books this week. And well, no, they will be sent this week with the mail. Who knows when you'll get them, but because the holiday mail is still in effect. But if you answer either of those, you get your book. So our next guest is Doris Allen. And Doris was on the show a few months ago. Doris is a strong advocate in African American literature. And I'm going to let her tell you what she's doing now. But we have her back on because some of you may have heard about the strike at HarperCollins that employees are, and I think it's still in effect, but I'm not sure. So Doris will be able to tell us that. But it's for more diversity, better wages. In the publishing field, they expect people to basically live on the prestige of saying they work for one of the publishing houses, not the money. And most of them require you to live in New York, which is one of the most, if not the most expensive city to live in the United States. So Doris, welcome back to Black Authors Matter TV. Doris has been, a lot of the books that you all see, these advanced reading copies that we give away, Doris is the person behind us getting tons of these. That's why we always have. And she sent me this one. So welcome, Doris. I wanted people to know what was happening with the strike from the front lines of the people who are taking a stand. So, because you probably have read something about it in newspapers, or you may not have read anything about it, but it's always good to hear it from the people who are on the front lines. So Doris, welcome, and hope you had a Merry Christmas.
Hi, thank you so much, Gwen. It's so good to see you again. Thank you for having me again. You look so great and happy and cheerful. Yes, despite the circumstances, have a very blessed Christmas, so that I'm very grateful for. Yeah, so we've been on strike since the union at HarperCollins Publishers have been on strike since November 10th. There's 250 of us. There have been no negotiations to come back to the table. So the main issue that they're unable to come to an agreement on is raising the entry-level pay, which would raise it from $45,000 to $55,000. And like you said, everyone, they would like to actually start going back to the office, and they want you to be living in New York. And there's no rent that's less than $1,500, even for a studio in New York. So that really isn't a large ask, but what we're asking for would equal about $1 million across 2 years. And what they're offering is $14,000. So that's a big gap, and part of why there haven't been any further negotiations. But, they spend millions of dollars on books like from Ron DeSantis and from, Trump's son-in-law, that a lot of us in the union will have to put our beliefs and values to the side for, in order to promote and market and, just work on these books, period. And that goes, and then when they do well, we are not the ones who get the bonus. It's the ones, higher up than us who aren't in the union that get bonuses for the books doing well, even though we're the ones doing all the work.
So what positions are in the union?
It's positions under managerial. So there's editorial, marketing, design, sales, publicity. So if you're an associate or a senior associate or an assistant or you're in the union. So anything under like a managerial level is considered union.
Hmm.
And a lot, like me, for instance, I've been there 15 years. So I don't feel like I should be in the union. I feel like I should be in a managerial role or a sales rep or a role that, you know, my counterparts who don't look like me have grown into. But, you know, that didn't happen. And then I felt away, but then I met another Black woman who I've known in the office. I've seen her, but we never had a conversation. And she's been there in the design department for 22 years. So I'm just like, this is insane.
And the sad part is that this strike is not on the news every day. So you're not getting the support of the public who go through these things in their own industries, but because this is the publishing industry, it doesn't make as big news. Does that make negotiations maybe a little bit more challenging?
I believe so. And also the fact that we're HarperCollins is owned by News Corp, which is a Rupert Murdoch company. So he's a media giant. So the likelihood of them amplifying our message, you know, is not very good. And also a couple of us in the union went to support the New York Times when they walked out 2 weeks ago, I think. And I met Nicole, and that was wonderful. But we went to support them, and there was so much media out there, and even a lot of them, I'm sure, were New York Times, but there was media from all across the world out there, you know, just for their one-day strike, and that was really telling. So yeah, you have a point.
Yeah, because the media is not going to show opposition to, they're not going to give like free publicity to opposition or to what they would perceive to be a problem. And it's really interesting that a lot of the people who are constantly talking about diversity and so forth in publishing or even in that part in New York, but then you can't in the book publishing, it's like you're still living in the 70s or what.
Yeah.
I can't, I mean, it's hard to believe. And they're publishing a lot of more Black books. They actually are doing more. They're putting out more material. But I noticed, for example, and I won't say who's on the back of this book, but the publicity people for the Black authors are not Black. Yep. You know, when I contact someone at HarperCollins, other than you, but then you have to hand me off to the person who's in the publicity. They don't have Black people in publicity for Black authors, which I just find that to be incredible.
Yeah, and it goes throughout the entire company. There are very few Black editors, very few Black publicity people, very few Black marketing people, very few Black sales people, and all of these things contribute to the sale, the promotion, the marketing, you know, of a book. And if, you know, just like they say it's subjective, the agents, when you're querying, it's subjective, I'm subjective, publishing is subjective. Well, the people in publishing are subjective too, because they have one way that they're thinking and you have to fit within that mold. And if you don't, then, you know, then you're not as marketable and you're not, you know, publicized as much and you don't get as many marketing dollars. And then the fact that a lot of the seniors and hires up have been there 20, 30 years, you know, that speaks a lot also to the change that's not happening. And if you refuse to acknowledge that there's an issue, then how can you address the issue? You know, if it's not there, how can we ever address it?
Right. This is a main reason why representation matters. It matters in how we get published. It matters how we're marketed. It matters how we're represented in our books. Because if they think that we only want to read one type of book, that's the only books they're going to publish. And if we don't get out there and make our voices known, to let people know we are not a monolith. We don't only want to read one type of book. If we're not letting that be known, that this is what we're going to be given.
And it's the authors and the consumers who have to speak up, because there's very few of us inside, and then very few of us who actually speak up. I'm one of the few who will speak up. I will say, hey, in a cover meeting, why is she so dark? Why are her lips so big? You know, why doesn't she have edges? Like, you know, things that we would notice. And then sometimes, you know, all the time I get text messages or emails like, thank you so much, because other people were wanting to say something, but you're in a room, you know, of predominantly white people. And whether you say something or not, depending on how strongly they feel about it, it doesn't really matter what you say. You know, we have cover meetings. There's a cover that I am, quite a few of them, but one of them that the girl's supposed to be 10 and she looks 25 to me. And I'm just like, there's no 10-year-old that I have ever seen, you know, that looks like this. She's too old. She's aged up. And then sometimes they'll try to make a change, but this time they were just like, no, you know, like, this is what it is, and whatever, you know, pretty much deal with it. And that is an issue as well, because if I'm telling you that this girl looks 25 and I'm the audience, or people who look like me are the audience, like, I know a 10-year-old Black kid when I see one. So again, if you're not the dominant voice, if you don't have that position of power, even if you do find the guts to speak up, most times, you know, it's ignored or overlooked.
And a lot of times, you know, incorporated, when you speak up, then you get labeled a troublemaker, you get blackballed, and
I think that's why I'm still in the union.
and you know, that led me to entrepreneurship early on. I just, you know, because I'm a person who speaks up, and I will speak up wherever I am. I don't care where it is. And I'll just give you just a small example. It doesn't have anything to do with publishing, but my daughter went to a private school, Christian private school in middle school, that was very white. It was very white. And they didn't, like, for history, the history class barely covered, you know, it's like slavery had like half a day. And it was like slavery happened and then the slaves were freed. And it was, no, then they didn't celebrate Black History Month. They weren't off on Black History Month. Now, my daughter is 26 now. So she was 12, 13, 14 when she was at the school. And there were a few other Black parents there, but, you know, nobody else wanted to speak up. So the headmaster, he was open. He said he wanted more Black students. So I said, well, you need some to get some, because Black people don't want to send their kids somewhere where there's no Black kids. It's too challenging. It's too much. So he said, well, what can we do? I mean, because I talked to him. I said, you all need to do something. So I said, the minimum you need to do is celebrate Martin Luther King Day. You can't be a school when there's a national holiday and not acknowledge it and be off. You just can't. And they did. The year after, well, it was her last year there, because she went 7, 8, and 9. So it was her 9th grade year, and then she went to public school. But a couple of the other parents said, you went in and asked them about it? Yeah, and you all were there before we were. Why didn't you all say something? I mean, but I will say something wherever I am, because I'm not bound by, you know, I don't have to worry about losing my job, you know, or any of that. And my thing is, one private school, she can go to another one or whatever. I rather homeschool than, you know, some of the things
you're gonna listen to my money.
right. So, but anyway, we have to, it's not easy. A lot of times, like I say, you get blackballed, you get ostracized, but sometimes you just have to be willing to take a stand.
Yeah.
And along with that,
I try really hard, and I'll be like, okay, I'm just let this go, you know, like just keep on going. And then they'll get right to about to change the slide, and my heart will start beating real fast. And then my ears are like, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. And I'm like, hey, I gotta say, I'm like, okay, I have to say something.
Right.
And you do have to pick your battle.
My question is, you know, Sometimes it's a hard balance between, okay, when do I speak up and when do I stay quiet? Do I fight this battle or do I not fight this battle? And do you find that to be an internal struggle, an
Yeah,
ongoing internal struggle?
I find it a huge internal struggle, and it's an external struggle because I could be in a meeting with a couple of other Black women who feel the same way I feel, and they'll just say I'm not saying anything because like they're not going to listen anyway. So it's like, and that's when I'll be just finally say it or something. But yeah, a lot of the times if I know this one particular editor or this one particular marketing person or whatever is not open to suggestions and won't make any changes, then I don't even bother to waste my time. And it's disheartening, but at the same token, it's even more disheartening when you do finally find the courage to speak up and lay out the facts and send an email and links and everything, and then still nothing. So yeah.
Yeah, sometimes people's minds are closed and they're just gonna be closed. But we have to pick our battles, in these situations and just decide is this really like super important? And then if the answer is yes, then we have to have strategies for how to approach it.
And then
maybe
they'll shut. Like now, I know a lot of us, we shut down. We'll be like, okay, I'm not going to say, oh, forget it. And they know that, especially when you're the only one who ever actually speaks up. So then they're just like, okay, now you're not saying anything at all. Like, what's happening? Like, they don't understand. And I'm not sure if they don't understand or they're just patronizing us,
Yeah, it can be really intimidating.
I think the danger often is when you're the one who always wants to speak up, then everybody kind of uses you to be the mouthpiece. And then when things don't go right, then they can turn around and say, it wasn't me. So I mean, and that's another danger, I think. And it's a part of that internal struggle, whether you speak up or not.
Yeah, exactly. Because then if you do and they take your word and it doesn't work out, then the next time you say something, they're like, oh, well, last time you said this and that didn't work. So no more listening to her.
Well, a lot of suggestions, it's really, the suggestion is step one, the execution is step two. And if they have somebody on the execution part that either really doesn't want to do it or doesn't want it to succeed, then it's not going to succeed. And right. You can tell when people have their whole full effort and behind something versus if they're reluctant, just like kicking and screaming, or just because, okay, I'll do it because, shut them up or whatever. That's a whole different approach to something. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't have the authority to execute, then how can they blame you? It's the execution that's the problem.
Right.
So, but that's what happens.
Somebody's going to take the heat.
Right. Somebody's going to be the scapegoat or whatever. We've had several questions, and two of them are kind of similar to what we've discussed, but I'll just repeat them. Curtis Kojo Moros said, how and when do you speak up? And Pamela Coleman said, what do you do when you speak up and get disregarded?
Okay, so how and when could be in an acquisitions meeting when we're meeting about each week. There's an acquisitions meeting where editors bring their manuscripts that have been sent to them, their queries to the table. So there might be a title where either the author maybe is problematic or maybe it's a great author, and the other people in the room feel like just because this author doesn't have a large Instagram following or is not on TikTok, then, they wouldn't be as revered as another person writing the same story. So, depending on what the issue at hand is, and if I feel compelled and convicted enough, then I will speak up. I have spoken up to a STEM professor, that they thought might be, her story might be more well received if a more popular person wrote it. And I'm just like, she's in the business, like this is what her life is. How can, I've spoken up several times about covers. I've spoken up about race, things that could be conceived as racist and explained why. A numerous amount of things I have spoken up about, but again, I have also been there 15 years. So a lot of things I have said either my ideas have been stolen or they've been completely disregarded. So I just really pick and choose. If I really feel like, it doesn't even make sense to say anything, I might send an email after, like there's a teen book that I really had an issue with, and I sent an email, and that editor is not really open to suggestions. So, they went on ahead, and then things didn't pan out the way they probably would have had they been a little more open, to suggestions. So it's really just, and then sometimes, like I said, when I try not to speak up, if I get that whoosh and my heart pounding, then I'm like, I know that I have to say something. But I really, at 15 years in, try to choose a little more selectively, what to even bother to speak up about anymore.
Yeah. Well, what's the, I wanted to mention one thing about it's another area where not having Black people in the pipeline affects down the line. And that's at Black bookstores and Black events, because a lot of the top name authors that are Black bookstores and events can't even get them because they're being blocked by the person who's over publicity that's not Black and is intentionally blocking out Black events.
It's kind of like the same thing with social media, like with bookstagrammers and stuff. There's a tier. So if you don't, meet these certain benchmarks, then they don't think that, you should be a part of like the big mailings or whatever. So it's kind of like the same thing, even, for different outlets. If you I reach out to the publicity person, and if they don't think that the outlet is appropriate, having no connection to the community whatsoever,
right.
Possibly not even clicking the link that I provided just off, it could be a variation of things. But if they don't feel that it's appropriate, then they have the final word. So no, it's a no. They don't even run it by the author, and that's really disheartening.
Do you find it the other way around as well, to where maybe some authors are only sent to Black venues because they maybe the publisher doesn't feel that they'll be accepted in other venues?
That I haven't seen too much of. Again, probably because there aren't a lot of Black people in the departments to think that way, so like we might have a planning meeting for the season, and then I might say, oh, they would be good, on the Read or Joe Button, or certain outlets that are not normal outlets that they would actually think of, and different podcasts and this and that. So in order to expand that broadly, you kind of need to be in the community, and there aren't very many of them. They have like a set amount of who they think is in the community. So like
Charlemagne.
Yeah, Oprah, of course, and the other one, what's the singer girl that has her own book club, whatever her name is, but she's not really popular for us, but for them, they think that she's popular for us. So
who is it, Rhonda?
Jennifer Hudson. She has her
own
she has,
oh no, that was the
not
one
her. Not her.
What are you talking about?
Girl, I think it's her or something. If it's not her, it's one of those younger girls like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I've heard of her. Her is the person's name.
Right.
H-R. H-R.
I'm not sure her, her range that has this other book club, but I don't see where she does a lot. But, again, because of the name,
right.
Which is and another thing in publishing, like the name makes, the difference.
Mm-hmm. Having done a book event for many years, one thing I found with the people that you invite, like the celebrities, they don't draw readers. People who are avid readers want to read people who write all the time, the people who write books and are good at writing. Now, they might come and see the celebrity, but that's not who's excited. And the people who come to see the celebrity, they're really not readers. They are there to see the celebrity. What do you think, Rhonda? That's my observation.
I'm just looking at you because I know what you're talking about, and I'm just going to be
not shade.
But it's true. It's true. And it's over the years, the celebrity authors that are really not writers, they're celebrities with books. They attract groupies. I'll just use that term.
They attract people who want to see them, not
The
necessarily
celebrity, right? They're not readers. They may not even read the book that they buy, but they want to take a picture with the person, and they want to get them to sign the book and say they have a signed book, and post pictures.
And don't even write their own books. That's why
of course. No, they have ghostwriters.
Other author, on there, because they might have said 10 words, or they might have things, but they didn't actually write the book.
Right. So
speaking of writing books, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
I know we only have a few minutes left, and I know that you have a book that's going to be released in the next few weeks, and I thought you might want to talk about it before we end.
Well, it's not going to be released anytime soon. So I was one of the finalists in the We Need Diverse Books Black Creators Revisions Workshop, and they haven't announced the winner yet. So, but I do know that I didn't win. But the winner will be announced soon. And my book was pretty much about a Black woman in publishing who started a kind of a support group for other Black women, but she's also runs like an XOXO page, and she's been poisoned at the annual dinner on live feed. So she has a group of friends, one of whom is Jamaican and who's absolutely hilarious, and they try to figure out who done it, and the list of suspects, of course, is their colleagues.
I was gonna say,
that's like a fun book to read.
Oh my God,
I read it.
It has like back and forth. It has like articles, like how maybe a Publishers Weekly would do an article, and then you can see the difference in the other article, just little subtle things. So I'm really proud of it, but I need to get it edited, preferably by a Black editor, and then see where we go from there. Because it is a little, like, people are like, oh, is it like the Black girl? And I'm just like, a little bit, but I took it like, if she was stepping on eggshells, I'm like Miley Cyrus, and I came in with the wrecking ball because I just went in.
I like it. I want to read it. So hurry up and do something with this story, Doris.
Yes.
So what you said, they haven't come to the negotiating table. So what do you think is the future for the strike, or what do you have any feelings about, what may be happening in the future, or are they able to fire people who are striking? Is that legal? I don't know about unions and things like that.
Pimps, and I believe that that our contract or whatever, however it's set up, doesn't allow for them to fire us during a strike. But the last time that they went on strike was like in 1984, and it only lasted 16 days. So we've lasted beyond that. And our committee is full of young people, a lot of LGBTQ, and they're really, these young people are much different. These millennials, they're like not taking no for an answer. They have, they have their demands, and they are very clear on them and why they're important. And the same way Harper's not budging, they're not budging either. So, and then I don't know, because you figure if you felt unappreciated in the office already, and then for the strike to happen, and for the company in general to just seem like they don't, like they're just co-signing how you may have been treated already. I'm not sure what the climate is once it is over and you want people to come back into your office. I think that
how can the public support? I know we only have about a minute left, but how can we support?
Follow Collins Publishers Union online, HCP Union, on Instagram and on Twitter. And we have a fund that you can donate to. If you can repost the graphics and emails to the People team and our CEO, Brian Murray, that's really just what we're asking for, people to amplify the message.
Okay. Now, are you all still being paid during the strike?
We are, apparently New York only state that allows you to get unemployment when you're on strike. So thankfully, we're able to get unemployment, and then we are paid weekly a strike stipend of like $400. So that's, pretty much what it is right now. And then there's also a hardship fund that we're able to, put in hardship requests, and they've been pretty good because, again, the donations have been overwhelming. People were donating money, hand warmers, toe warmers, food, so many donations. So thankfully we've been able to sustain this far. And what we're hearing, or like the little whispers, is that they're trying to starve us out, like wait till we run out of money and then have to just come back with nothing resolved. So sadly, that's what I envision them thinking.
So, okay, final question. What are they doing about the positions? Who's doing the work? What are they doing about getting the work done for the people who are on strike? What is the company doing?
We're getting insight, from inside, and it's contrary to what they're saying outside. So things are being delayed, steps are being skipped. You can't really hire a temp to come in and do a job somebody's been doing for 10 years. This is not an executive assistant or an admin, like you could just come in and catch right on. There are certain programs, certain processes. There's a lot, that goes into each and every one of our jobs that, the time it would take to teach them, and then allow for them to make mistakes, you're still wasting more money.
Right. Well, Doris, I wanted to make sure that the audience knew about, from people on the front lines, what was going on with the strike. And hopefully people will support your efforts. Keep me informed so I can keep the audience informed on developments.
I will, and I appreciate you both. Thank you so much. I love talking with you both, and I appreciate you again for having me.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you for being here and sharing your story. We did put your links in the chat, so we can try to follow along and support where we can.
Thank you. Yes, and follow me on Onyx Editions, where I post Black books and Black authors. Thank you.
Okay, you have a great evening.
You too. Take care, ladies.
Okay.
Bye.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Okay, so that was interesting, just hearing about the industry and what happens in the industry. So, and for those who are trying to get into the industry, you get a chance to hear about some things you'll be dealing with.
Right. It's very important that we know what's going on in our industry, because if we don't pay attention to what's going on in the industry, and we're only worried about our respective projects, we can open ourselves up to being taken advantage of. And then we wind up supporting people who don't always have our best interests at heart.
Right. So our next guest is Calenthia Miller. She is a motivational author, and she is with She Publishing LLC. If you all watch the show regularly, we've had the CEO of She Publishing on a couple of times, Shanitha Burton, and Calenthia Miller is under the She Publishing umbrella, and she's going to tell us about her recent book. And also she had, since she suffered a stroke less than a year ago, and so God bless you and welcome to Black Authors Matter TV. Oh, we need you to unmute your mic. So,
yes, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So, tell us a little bit first about, because that's kind of what you led with on your information about your health challenge, and how that, what warning signs that you have, and then how you seem to be fine now. I don't know if you're 100% because I didn't know you before, but you seem to be able to communicate and all that in your movement.
So yes, I had a stroke on January 19th of this year. So not quite a year. Of course, we operate in just chaos some days, and we just don't pay attention to the warning signs. Of course, because I'm in healthcare, I should have known those warning signs, but of course you keep doing what you do. And so I did have some warning signs, headaches, fatigue. In this particular incident, I actually had my stroke at work, which was a blessing in itself because I work in healthcare. So somebody was right there tending to me with my providers that I work with every day. So it was a blessing in itself that somebody was there. But I think probably the warning signs probably started back in August or September of the previous year. I actually lost my voice and had to go through speech therapy and just relearn how to speak again. And then that particular day, I was out with my staff, talking to them, just talking about what the upcoming weekend was going to look like. And I just had this horrible headache, dizziness. I just couldn't get myself together. And I don't know, after that, everything went black.
Wow.
So.
Now, you mentioned earlier that because you work in healthcare, you feel that you should have known. But is this often something that's easy to predict, or do we sometimes feel the headache or we feel the dizziness and we dismiss it or think that it's something else?
I think it was probably for me. I didn't even really second guess it. It could have been just for me just being tired. I had just opened up a new practice with the university that I work for. So it was just something that you just do every day. You're like, oh, I didn't eat today. Oh, I'm just stressed today, But when we operate in stress, we don't really take heed to those warning signs. We just keep moving and think that, okay, I'm just going to eat today and I'm going to do a little better today. But that better didn't come that day. It just kind of like went to the left and here we are today. But it's a blessing in itself. I tell people every day, even though you might not know me, people who see me, they're like, we wouldn't even guess that you had a stroke. Some days I have good days, I have bad days. I have challenges like anybody who suffered such a stroke at such a young age, but I give credit to where credit is due. The quick thought process of the providers that were on staff that day with me, the wonderful staff that treated me at the hospital that I went to, and of course my family just being there just to support me after it. So.
Okay, so one thing that happened after you had the stroke, or maybe you had started before, but you said you began writing again, and you started writing short stories and poetry as a child. And then you tell us about that process of now that your book is coming out next month. Is that correct?
It actually launched December 25th, so Sunday.
Oh, okay. Oh, congratulations.
Hey, what a nice gift.
Yes, ma'am. It released on Sunday, so that was a Christmas gift for me and my family and those people who were standing behind me when I wrote this book. So when I wrote the book, it allowed me cognitively to get myself in a space where I didn't feel like I was losing my mind, because I went through some depression. When you're talking about have worked since you were 14 years old, and then you have to learn how to walk, how to learn how to talk, how to depend on people. I mean, I had to depend on my adult sons. I don't have girls. So you're talking about having to have them help me bathe and do everything. So to keep myself sane, I went back to what I knew would keep me in a place where I didn't feel like I was stressed and that I was doing too much. So I brought it back to what I knew best, and that was for me to write. And so I wrote Unmasked in 4 weeks. I started February the 18th and I finished it in 4 weeks. My second book, which is coming out January 21st, I wrote that in 6 weeks. So this is what keeps me not stressed. It keeps me at a level where I feel like I have some control. So this is my peace each day.
I was just going to ask, because you wrote both books fairly quickly, was this your therapy?
Yes.
To be able to get your thoughts out?
Yes, ma'am. Definitely. I think because I started so young at 9, 10 years old, started journaling. And I felt like, sometimes we don't have the opportunity to kind of speak our truth some days. So it came in the form of just writing for myself. And so for me, with having the stroke, it allowed me to go back to that childlike atmosphere for me that kept me grounded. And so it was just a piece for me. I mean, I can't say enough. It brings me joy. I don't feel as if I'm working a 9 to 5. I feel like this is what I'm supposed to do.
So do you have a copy of your book with you that you can show us?
I do.
Oh, okay.
Very
I like
interesting.
that.
I like the brokenness on the half. What do you feel that represents?
I always tell people when they really ask me why I named it Unmasked, we as women, we carry so many things. We hide behind a lot of masks. We have so many roles. But for this book just showed me that we are broken sometimes, and it's okay. It's okay that we have to take off those masks and say, hey, yes, I might be a mom today. I might be a sister. I might be a wife. But sometimes you have to take off those masks and say, look, here I am in the flesh. Take me as I am. You know, shoulder me when I need that shouldering, you know, help me when I need that help. Sometimes we don't know how to, as I tell my staff, have to manage up. And in this process for me, I had to learn how to manage up and give full reign to other people that I'm so used to doing for myself. So it just brought me back to saying to myself, you know what, I can't do it all. And we can't do it all. We have to just let go sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes we don't want to show vulnerabilities. We don't want people to take it as weakness, or sometimes we don't want to ourselves feel like we can't achieve something. We can't complete whatever the project or task, but you know, everybody needs rest. And if you don't get rest will force itself on you sometimes.
Right. And that's why I hate when people keep promoting this concept of team no sleep, you know, that you're supposed to be up all
I hadn't
night.
heard about that.
Yeah, I mean, people will say that all the time. Team no sleep. You know, while you're sleeping, I'm grinding, and they'll say these things. And but what that means is don't be lazy. It doesn't mean don't get rest, because you literally need rest.
Yeah.
Now, if you are just laying around doing nothing, watching TV when you could be pursuing your dreams, now that's one thing. But when you shame people for going to sleep at night, that is a totally different story.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree, because that was my concept for a long time. You know, I feel like, you know, when you're in this position of trying to push along a product or whatever, you want to make sure that your brand is out there and that you're doing 100%. But sometimes that 100% wears you down. And obviously it did that to me. So I now take it very, very serious. Like when I'm tired, it's done. Whatever is going to happen or whatever I didn't do that day, it'll happen tomorrow. It's okay. You know, so we have to have that concept and understanding that we can't do it all. And sometimes somebody else has to take those reins. And I'm learning to do that, you know.
Right. Because sometimes we have to, I know I can get very focused, and I'm very driven and very task oriented, very goal oriented, but I'm still human, you know, and I have feelings. I don't show them frequently, but there's certain things that really hurt my feelings. And so, but very few people would know that because I don't show it to people.
So you're wearing a mask too, right?
Yeah, well, I'm generally a happy person all the time, but that's because I figured out peace is the best elixir for longevity and for health and everything else. So I make peace a priority. You know, I don't have drama in my life. I don't have chaos. If people want to be drama filled, then they have to be out of my space till they get themselves together, because I'm just not, you know, life's too short.
Yeah, I agree.
And I've just seen people take on so much. They're trying to carry everybody, and then they get carried out, you know, they get carried out. And so life is too short. And, you know, you don't want to spend when you start to get older, you don't want to be spending those years debilitated. You know, you don't want to be in a wheelchair. You don't want to, you know, be constantly going to the doctor or have some kind of, you know, chronic illness if you can help it. So, you know, I made peace a priority a while back, about 10 years ago or so in there.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say, you know, because I'm a person who tends to work a lot, and often I have to be very intentional about ensuring that I get the rest that I need. So there are going to be times where I need to disconnect, or where I'm saying, okay, this is enough. I'm putting the computer away. I'm going to lay down. Or if I want to sleep late, I'll sleep late because I'm not going to drive myself crazy trying to impress people who don't really care.
No,
And
they don't.
Typically, they don't.
They don't.
Typically, they don't.
They don't. And when something happens to you, if you have a health challenge, they're not going to be around. You know, they're not going to come visit you or help you or do anything. So, you know, I had two, you know, their stages you go through in life. And when Rhonda and I went to Philadelphia together, and I had originally, before I went on the trip, I had in my mind I was going to be doing stuff in the evening. Well, it didn't happen because once I had to get all that stuff there and then get all of it set up and then be there all day, walking around, talking to people, moving stuff, unpacking boxes. By the end of the day, I didn't want to do nothing but find some food and get in the bed. And that's what I did.
You have to prioritize yourself.
Yeah,
and that's
I do. Now,
most
Rhonda was
important
doing
thing.
stuff at night, but she had to because it was a Zeta event. She was on the board and she had to, you know, show her face. And you got your sound off.
I say, even then, I wasn't up all night. I was up for a while, and then I put the computer away and went to sleep.
Yeah, I just got, you know, I put on my pajamas and I get to bed, and I always have a book. I'm always reading. So I'm always reading a book, I just finished one last night and I started another. I'm always reading a book. So that's my relaxation, my unwinding time. And writing, I write too. So, but the writing is more, I have to, well, depending on what I'm writing, I have to really get like inspiration and thoughts will come to me and then I'll come in the laptop and put them in there, you know. So I'm trying to get a book done. My goal is March. We'll see, but it's moving. So, but anyway, peace is very important. You know, it just is important to life. Now, how did you become aware of She Publishing? Because we worked with them. They were at the festival this year. They had 8, I think they had 8 authors or so. They had
and they're going to be at the Black History Month Literary Weekend.
Yes.
Yeah, and they're going to be next year's festival. They're going to be a sponsor. So they really are on the move. And then Shanita said that they met someone there and signed her at the festival.
Yes.
Or him. I didn't find out if it was a man or a woman, but they had an author there that they met, and they was a new client. So how did you become aware of She Publishing?
So my best friend is actually was under She Publishing, and we were talking one day. I had not divulged any information to her about my stroke, and we were just talking, and I told her I had wrote a book, and she told me about Shanita and She Publishing. And so I reached out to her and we talked for about an hour and a half as if I had knew her. And instantly I knew it was where I needed to be as a family. She had this engaging family atmosphere that she brought to the table. And that's what I wanted to be a part of. So I signed September 23rd of this year.
Oh, okay. Now, did you cover, or or were you responsible for your own cover? Or did you bring your own illustration to the table?
I did. I actually, the artist that did this his name is Anthony Wardet. We worked together for about 3 months to get this cover. So I'm really, really proud of it. I told him, I said, I want people to really remember, if you don't read the story, just remember the cover. Because, you know, when you look at a cover, if you don't want to, you kind of like, well, I like that. Let me see what's inside. So we worked together for about 3 months to get this cover together. And he's done all of the illustrations for the next 6 books that it's going to be a 7-series. So the next 6 books he's done for me, the covers.
Oh, okay. So you have 6 books. Do you have them all written?
I have 3. I'm almost finished with book 3, going into book 4.
So all of them unmasked, or
yeah, it's a continuation, it's a sequel. It tells the story of a few people in the book, but it'll piggyback off the characters within the book. Yeah.
Okay. Now, is it fiction or nonfiction?
It's fiction.
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought it was more a motivational, like.
It is, in some regards, it takes some pieces of what I went through as far as my recovery, and it talks about a lot of things in the book. It talks about the importance of family through recovery. It talks about depression. It talks about the stigma about there's no males in the household. It talks about the importance of having grandparents to raise our children, because I grew up with my grandparents or with my grandmother. So it's important to make sure that we keep that in the family unit. So it talks about a lot of things. It talks about vulnerability, as you said before, about when we're going through recovery, especially with male children helping their moms. So it talks about a lot of things. It talks about sisterhood. So there's a lot of things in the book that it touches on. So each one of the characters in there, they're all made up, but it took some pieces of what I saw each day and some things that I did when I went through recovery. So it takes a little bit pieces of me, not a whole lot. I've had people who did I did a roundtable before I actually published the book. And a lot of my friends like, oh, that person reminds me of me. And I'm like, well, I think it reminds us of a lot of us, all of us. So I think people can take away from some things out of here that says, we need to understand that sisterhood means so much now. It should. We kind of don't take that as an important role, especially with young girls. And so I want them to see that we don't have to step on each other to get to the top. We can bring each other together and make a wonderful journey of it. So this is what this book talks about. A lot of it does.
That's a very powerful and poignant message.
Mm-hmm. I hope so. I want. When I was at the Black Women Expo, I met a couple of young ladies, and we talked about the importance of sisterhood and about understanding what that means. And so she was like, well, I've only met her just yesterday or something like that. She said something to that effect. And I said, well, it doesn't matter. It's what you build on from that start, and how you build on it, and how that lasting effect will grow you, or either it's going to tear you apart. So we would hope that our sisterhood would always bring us together. So we see so much of that in many industries about us tearing each other down. And that's not the narrative that I want to leave for our young girls.
It's true. I think that I was getting some more feedback, Linda. So I had a question about your stroke, and are you fully recovered, or what stage of recovery are you in now?
I won't say I'm fully recovered. I have, like I said, I have good days and bad days. If I can't put too many tasks on the table, or it becomes very overwhelming for me. Some days I have still trouble with walking. I still have a prominent limp, but that's they're wanting me to go back through therapy, but we'll see about that. But I have good days and bad days, but today is a good day. And, I just count my blessings, because my story could have been very different. I actually flatlined on the 21st. So I actually died and they brought me back. So my story could have been totally different. So I take each day as a blessing, whether it be a hard day or a good day. I just take it as it is and say, you know what, it could have been totally different. So each day is a good day for me.
I've heard people say that they flatline.
I'm speechless on that, because you don't know what to say after something like that. And I just wondered, do you think back on that time, and does that help you to slow down? Does it help you to encourage others?
Yes.
What goes through your mind when you think about that moment in life?
Well, when you come back from something like that, when you hear when you wake up and you see all these people in your room, like it was probably 50 people in this little small room, and I'm like looking, and all I can hear asking me, can you hear me, Miss Miller? Can you hear me? And I'm shaking my head because I couldn't talk. And she says, and all I can remember is, this was the best sleep I had ever had in my life, and you're waking me up. And she says, literally, you were sleeping. And so it makes me really take in the importance of not taking things for granted. Just taking it, don't let the small things, sweat you. You just stand in the moment, be present. And so I take every day as if it was my last day. And I truly mean that, because it could have been my last day. So January 21st is my rebirth. That's why my second book is coming out on January 21st.
Okay, that was intentional. That was a very intentional date for you.
Yes.
So you have a meet and greet and a book signing event on that day.
I do.
That's great. Now you also, and we have a few minutes left, you also a jewelry designer.
I am not a jewelry designer. The person that is actually coming to my event is a jewelry designer.
Oh, so somebody put that on here. Oh, I see. Queen, is Queen the jewelry designer?
Yes, she is.
Okay, because I was reading that. I said, oh, she's a jewelry designer. And I was going to ask you if you made your earrings. So I was completely. Okay.
No, I didn't.
So your Unmasked series that you are going to have 6 or 7 books, are your covers going to be similar? Like,
it's my what?
Covers.
They're going to be similar, but different backgrounds. But the last one is going to have a little bit of a twist to it. So I'm going to add a little bit something different to that last one as it exit out of the 7th one. So it's going to have a little bit of different flair to it, the last one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just think your story is amazing. And
I really appreciate you being so open and sharing it with us.
Oh, anytime. If I can be of any help to anybody to really let them know that, really pay attention to those warning signs. Be aware of taking that moment to say, you know what, today I'm not going to do. I'm going to stay at home. I might work from home 4 hours and maybe I'll do something else the other 4 hours. Just pay attention to what's going on in your surrounding, and whatever is happening, it's not that important that it's going to interfere with your life. And so I tell people all the time, today is I'm not doing it today. We'll work on it tomorrow, or I'll give it to somebody else. And we need to learn how to do that as well too, as not just as in our business life, but our personal lives as well too. Give it to somebody else, and it's going to be okay. If you've given them the right tools to manage it, it'll be just fine. But I want to just also just mention too, I will be actually January 21st, I'm going to be launching Wood She Publishing as a sister company. So I'll have my own publishing company starting January 21st. So I'm very excited to have that honor to work alongside Shanita and the other young ladies a part of this sisterhood. So I'm excited about that as well too.
Okay, yeah, Shanita has
I think she has like 2 or 3 other sister companies, right?
Yes. She has I'm intrigued by some of the different, and so far it's been women. That doesn't mean it can't be men, but the different creative ideas that are outside the box that people are coming up with now. It's just really great, because we had someone on last week that was doing some outside the box things. So it's really great. Well, congratulations on that, and just on your comeback with your health and your books and your new venture, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year's to you too.
You're going to be doing some great things.
I'm looking forward to the new year, something different, something. I always say it's always a new opportunity and a new blessing. So a new year, all of that's going to come as well too.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Keep doing what you're doing. And congratulations on not just the book, but opening your sister company. And I'm looking forward to seeing great things from you.
Thank you so much, ladies. It's been a pleasure. Take care.
Okay, same to you. Okay, before we bring on our final guest, we need to see who won the books. And I saw some answers, but I don't remember who it was.
Yeah, I saw one answer. I saw BET from Pamela Coleman, I believe that was.
Okay, that's the answer for this. So who answered it?
It was Pamela Coleman, but I'm confirming. Hold on, let me confirm.
Okay. And I'm not sure if we have Pamela Coleman's address. So Pamela, because I don't believe you want a book before. So Pamela, if you will DM us on this page with your mailing address, we will send you your book. So what about this one? Did we get anybody to answer this? I'm trying to.
Yeah, Pamela, this is the first time she won?
I don't remember her winning before, but that doesn't mean she didn't. But she's not a weekly winner. But, you know, the weekly winner, the weekly winners, the weekly winners are Mary, Lydia, Tony Bonita, Stephanie Burnham sometimes, Kay Larry will win, Gwen Hayes.
Right, right.
You know,
But
those.
nobody answered the first question yet, so there's still time.
Okay, yeah, I don't see the answer there either. So, someone can still win this book. The question is, the author, who's Nana Ikuabru Hammond, was on the show in March with her children's book. What was the title of the children's book? And I'll give you a clue. It's one word, and it's a color. So that's a clue. So, okay, our final guest is Jatrean Sanders. And I had mentioned at the top of the show that the Jerry Pinckney Children's Book Awards process opens January 1st. And we had our first award that we bestowed this year. And we had 5 winners, and then we had 1 grand prize winner among the 5. And there were 5 different categories. Jatrean Sanders was one of the winners of the Jerry Pinckney Children's Book Award for her book called Today Was Not the Same. And she won in the social commentary justice category. We had that was one of the categories. And she has behind her, that's not the front, that might be the inside. Yeah, that's a but welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here. I've been listening to the young ladies that were before me, and this is such an honor to be a part of this panel and to be with the 2 of you all, and especially as an award winner. I just want to say thank you so much.
You're welcome. So
I just got to say that it's well deserved. I mean, I still can't take my eyes off of your illustrations. They are so beautiful and vibrant. And I know that the care that went into writing the book was the same care that was taken into illustrating it.
Yes, absolutely. I had an amazing illustrator. He is in Atlanta. His story is he started off as a tattoo artist, but he always wanted to illustrate books. And so both of us were able to connect in a space where I practice law by trade. That's what I've been doing for the past 13 years. He's a tattoo artist. So we were able to come together and just share our dreams and our goals and kind of almost be like little kids ourselves and playing out the dreams that we had and making some of the characters to come to life. And for me, you mentioned the care. The little girl has a bonnet in several of the pictures where she's going to sleep, and it is a pink bonnet. And I still sleep in a pink bonnet. I remember with the father figure, when Tim was doing the illustrations, he said, now he's got to look like my dad, or he's got to look like my brother. And so we really did take a lot of care to make characters come to life that we see in our Black families every single day.
Now, what made you write on this topic? Do you practice law? What kind of law do you practice?
So I've always been a civil defense attorney. I have had the opportunity to work within criminal law when I worked as a staff attorney in Fulton Superior Court. So, but my background has been civil work. And I think I can speak for most of us in 2020 when we were all sitting home and it was May and we were in isolation and it was COVID. was rampant. We didn't know what was going to happen from day to day. And we all watched as George Floyd was murdered on TV. And for me, I'm in Atlanta. So I watched knowing that just, literally in our backyard in Brunswick, a place that I've gone to take depositions and a place that I've gone for some of my practice, there was Ahmaud Arbery, who also was killed. And one we know was by someone in law enforcement, and another one was by someone who was a citizen, but both of them were driven by fear and hate and racism. And so for me, I wanted to do something that helped me to deal with the pain. So I've always been a journaler. So when you read the book, it's written in poetry. So it rhymes. And so it's a narrative poem. And I wanted to essentially walk you through what I was experiencing, but through the eyes of a little girl. And I thought that would also be an opportunity for parents, grandparents, foster parents, school teachers to be able to have that conversation with the children in their classrooms who felt just like we did as adults, but we just didn't have the words. So that was why I wanted to kind of bring this character to life in this way. And I wanted it to be age appropriate so that we could start having that conversation with our children in a safe space, in a loving space, but also hopefully in a space that will empower them to be the change that we want to see.
Okay, there's the pink bonnet.
Yes, this is the pink bonnet. And this is also the father. So that gives you a little caption, he's got the beard.
I love the chocolate daddy. I love the beard. I love
and we have all different
dress.
Absolutely. And we got Auntie, she's got her dreads.
Okay.
And her locks. Her locks, her beautiful locks. So we wanted, to kind of have someone say, oh my gosh, I know that person. That person's in my family.
Okay, when did the book come out exactly? Because I know it had to come out either 2021 or 2022 for the Pinckney Awards.
Yes, so it came out in 2021. It was June of 2021. And so I hit a year about almost 6 months ago of the book being launched. And I am so grateful. And I have to just, especially during this holiday season, I'm just so grateful to God for my family and my friends, for opportunities like this. So once I start to think, oh my gosh, what am I going to do next? My book's losing momentum, then God just opens another door and, puts me in a space that I never thought I'd be in. And so the Jerry Pinckney Award was my very first award that I've ever won. Yes. And then, as you mentioned, for it to come from someone who is a renowned illustrator as well as an author. He just did such an exceptional job in paving the way for Black authors, Black writers, Black publishers, and Black illustrators. So I'm honored.
Well, thank you. I will say the process, because I was one of the judges. We had a committee of judges. All of the judges were authors. And we spent a lot of time going through, because there were about 150 books total that got submitted just overall. And your book stood out. So it stood out when we were determining who the finalists were going to be. And then when we had to take the 5 books that were finalists and decide who was going to be the winner. And with children's books, illustrations are really, really important.
Absolutely.
And then the story needs to match the subject, but the illustrations are what grab the attention. That's what determines who makes the cut, really, for children's books. If you have your illustrations, look like, they're just not professional, or they're not attractive, the colors aren't vibrant, then you're not going to be competitive in any kind of competition. That's just how it is. So we really enjoyed doing it. The committee loved actually the process. We met two days. Like
Oh, wow.
the first day was like 8 hours, and then we thought we were going to be able to finish, but we couldn't. So then we met again for about 6 hours to finish. And so your book stood out. Now,
Wonderful, because it just opened our eyes to, I mean, I wasn't part of the judging process, but I got to see many of the books that were in the competition, and the level of talent that's out there that people just haven't had a chance to even experience yet is just
Absolutely.
amazing. So I really hope that this platform will help you to be able to reach more children, because our children need to see that they can be beautiful in print like this, in illustration like this. We don't have to be funny looking. We don't have to look like elves. Or I
Yes.
know a lot of people who had problems with many of the Disney movies because the black kids can never stay kids. They have to turn into something, you know.
Yes.
So to see us beautiful in illustration is something that we don't take lightly.
Thank you. And again, I want to thank you all. And I know that you all will start accepting submissions for next year. And I really want to encourage anyone out there who wants to say, you know what, I'm going to take a leap of faith and I'm going to apply for this and I'm going to submit my book. But I think the other part that was really important to me, as you mentioned with the illustrations, as a self-published author, I had to invest in my illustrator. And so it really takes time to look for the right illustrator to, I went through Instagram. I had people submit drawings and I said, okay, this isn't what I want. This does not look like the little girl in my head.
And it wasn't an easy process.
Yes. And you have to, and I think maybe the attorney side of me helps, but everything's a process. And so I think I was able to say, you know what, this is not what I want. Same thing with the printing process. I remember going through and having books that were sent to me from different printers. And the only way I could describe it, and I feel like we'll know what I'm saying, but I would look at the pictures and I said, all the Black characters look ashy. They look dull. They look like they don't have the vibrance. They have other characters, especially even within the Black community with issues of colorism. I am a brown-skinned Black girl from Mobile, Alabama. So I didn't want the main character, who is a little Black girl like me, to not come to life and to not express the vibrance that I think as Black women we have. And we're not going to be able to keep that if we don't start as little kids feeling like we stand out, we jump out, we're important, we're just as beautiful. So it's an investment. If, and like I said, people keep saying, when's the next book going to come out? I'm like, look, I'm still working on getting this one where I want it to be and investing in this and not being so eager to run on to the next project when I feel like there are little Black girls and little Black boys out there who need to see themselves literally in color.
Well, that's true. A lot, when you self-publish, you set your own schedule. So you don't have to, you're not on the big publishers will normally, you have to write a book in 12 months, more or less. And when you do one, then in 12 months, you have to submit another one. And unless it's a romance, and then those are like every 4 months, they're coming out with books every 4 months. Oh, wow. But that's a different exercise. You start with a romance, it's the same story. It's just different characters. And it's light reading for a lot of people. They're huge. I think romance might be the biggest genre in terms of book sales because people it's like a feel-good story. You know how it's going to end. It's going to be a happily ever after. And a lot of people want that. They want the happily ever after. They want the people to be in love and ride off into the sunset.
Yes.
So, because you don't really get that much on movies or TV as much,
That's true.
But I did have a question about, I wanted to reiterate what you said about investing in your project. When you're self-published, it doesn't mean that you should cut a lot of corners just to get something out. You need to invest in an editor. Yes. Approve. Even a children's book still needs a proof or a copy editor to make sure the wording and the grammar is right. And you need to invest in an illustrator.
And bad grammar is not a writing style.
No.
Yes, yes, yes. Say it again, because you'll read books. And it's funny because children will correct you, like, because you got to think they're in school. So when I go and I'm reading at schools, we're thinking we got to dig back to what we learned in third grade and all of that. This is fresh for them. So they know about the subjects and the verbs agreeing and prepositions and punctuation. And they have no issue calling you out on it. And so you want to make sure that you get it right. Because the other point of it is inspiring them in every little way. And there's so many Black children who are they're pigeonholed into these little areas. This is what you can do. Right. As someone, this is what you have to do to be successful. And I tell kids, yes, I went to law school. I would not be here had I not practiced law for 13 years. That's the way I was able to afford this passion project. And for all the kids out there who have dreams of being whatever you want to be, but sometimes you're going to have to take some of those steps at the very beginning of doing the things that, the going to law school and practicing law, or being a teacher, or being whatever it is that you feel like, okay, I'm ready to do this. But sometimes you got to take the steps to get there. And I would not financially, I have to say this very honestly, be able to do what I've done as far as this project is concerned if I had not taken those steps from the very beginning, had I not put my education first, had I not had parents who reiterated how important it was to make good grades, to study hard. I went to Spelman, which is, a historically Black college for women. So I believe in not only representing ourselves in any area, like when we talk about books and things, but also representing ourselves in business, as doctors, as preachers, as teachers, sanitation workers, no matter what position at City Hall, we need you. And so sometimes you have to do those things first before you get to open up the doors and be a basketball coach, or open up some of the other doors that we want and be your next Beyonce. I mean, sometimes you have to take those steps first to get to that point.
Yeah, well, I encourage children, you can't be what somebody else. There's only one Beyonce, right, and she's already that. So you can't be her. And if you try to be her, you will always be disappointed, because you can't be someone else, whoever it is. And
the other part of that is I think that in this day and age where everybody wants to, it's a social media thing. Everybody wants to look like, I've decided today I'm going to be an author, and we're supposed to be best-selling tomorrow.
Yes.
We don't want to work up to that process anymore. It's like what you just said, everything has to be done so quickly. Nobody wants to glorify the process. They only want to glorify the end game. And if the end game isn't what they feel will give them the clout that they need on social media, then they'll make it up. They'll take pictures of an empty box and say, "I sold out of my books." They'll sit on an airplane, just sit in this first class seat just long enough to take the photo, and then go back to coach just to say that they were on the plane. There are so many things that we're doing now just to pretend, and it's the people who are telling the truth just don't look like they're doing right anymore.
I agree. And I struggle with social media as well, because I always feel like, and it's difficult. It's nice to tell children, hey, don't worry about it. That doesn't matter. It does matter, especially when you're trying to sell books, or when you're trying to promote yourself or push your brand. So it's hard to not fall into, okay, I have to do, as you mentioned, these things to make it seem like I sold out of books, in one night, or I am flying first class all around the world. But that is not part of the everyday struggle to get to where you want to be. And the everyday struggle is sitting in coach. And the everyday struggle is having a box that sits on your floor with 20 books in it for 4 weeks. And then you sell one and it feels like you sold the box, but you didn't. And that's the everyday struggle. And that's continuing to invest in yourself, even though you don't necessarily see the return, like Instagram makes you feel like you need to see it. And I think that that's another reason I've been able to be successful, not just as an author, but even through school and law school, because you don't see you don't take a test, you don't study for the bar, and then all of a sudden you're, on CNN and you're being interviewed and asked questions about a case you handled. It does not work like that. There are a lot of lonely nights, staying up, writing briefs, rewriting briefs, the next day going in and saying, what did I just do? I mean, it's that entire process. And it takes time. And I think that I think what you're saying is we've kind of become this microwave generation. And then Instagram made it worse, because not only do we want to microwave the food, but we're going to take a picture of it and it's going to look amazing.
Right.
And we're going to put a filter on it. Right.
My favorite thing is to write at night when I'm sleepy, and then wake up the next day and read it and like, what in the world did I just write?
Right.
Well, it's like, okay, if it's not on Instagram, it's like the tree that fell in the forest, did it make a sound of knowing it was there? If it's not on Instagram, did it really happen? That's
Absolutely.
That's kind of like where things are. But it's short-lived. That's one thing about social media, is short-lived. Yeah, somebody might be able to keep up a facade for a while, but they eventually the mask will be removed, and you can't keep that up for a long period of time if it's not real. And it's the equivalent of, and I've used this example recently, not on the show, but I was talking to my daughter about something. It's like taking a calculus class and you barely pass addition and subtraction. There's a whole lot in between to get to calculus.
Right.
You can get there. And so you can't skip those steps, because each one of the steps builds on itself, and it's a learning experience. It creates the foundation that no one can take away from you, because it's a real foundation.
Absolutely. And then the thing is that we'll get to calculus and we'll be like, well, why did we fail? And it's like, you didn't have the basics. You didn't even give yourself a chance. And
with calculus, you can't even go to the next class, because if you don't, when I took it as freshman at Georgetown, I had because I didn't take it in high school. That was my mistake. I didn't take it in high school. So it was completely new. And the professor was writing on the board. When I first got in the room, I'm the only Black person in the class, which is most of my classes. The professor didn't even say anything. He just started writing. His back was to the class, and he was writing like a equation. He kept writing, and I'm looking around like this. Okay, I know I got here on time.
But I'm missing something.
And the other students, they looked like they knew what was happening. I had to get a tutor. I did struggle, but I made it through. I needed a tutor though, because it wasn't making any sense to me. And I was good at math, but calculus is a whole nother animal. It's a whole nother animal. Now I want to ask you about I want to hear your feedback about when you heard you were a finalist, and then when you heard you were a winner.
Okay, so I have to tell you the full story. So the opportunity was actually a text message that one of my mom's really good friends, who is probably watching, her name is Cora, she sent my mom the text message, and she mentioned that there was this book submission and that it was Jerry Pinckney. She gave me all of the information, but she ended up saying, but I think it's due maybe tomorrow or the next day. So I was in the middle of getting some work done. So I will never forget, I left from a law firm here in Atlanta, and I probably left around 9 p.m. And there is a post office in Atlanta. There's one that stays open really late. And I started driving, and because I was on autopilot, I started driving home. And I realized, wow, I did not drop this off at the post office, because you have to drop your submission off at the post office. It has to be postmarked
by a certain date.
Exactly. You have to have everything packaged correctly. So I had a moment where I literally said to myself, just go home. Just go home. You're probably not going to win. Just go. And I'm so grateful that, I learned as a little girl, and in the book, the little girl at the very end prays. But I learned as a little girl, my parents taught me and my grandmother taught me to kind of listen to that voice. inside. And the voice said, you know, you really can't compete. You can't show up if you don't participate, if you don't even submit, if you don't. And I knew that even if I didn't win, at least I'd have peace knowing that I tried. So I'd turn the car back around and, you know, get down to the post office, dropped it off in the post office. They gave me the little stamp to show it was, I said, I got to make sure that I have it by the date. And so she said, no, this is correct. And at that point I prayed and I let it go. And when I received the email, I was floored. I know people tell you these stories. I literally had tears in my eyes. I really, really did. And I just said, thank God that I listened to the voice. Thank God I have people out there who are looking out for me when I'm not even looking out for myself. You know, I'm so grateful that I have two parents who have supported me and invested in me. And so there were just so many moments, like, and that's kind of what got me teary. I mean, it wasn't just something I did and I ran off with it. There were so many little angels along the way. And so I was excited because that was the first part, was just that I had become a finalist. And that was almost like kind of good enough for me. You know, you want it, but you're like, you know what, this is such a blessing. And then when you start looking up the other books in the category, then you start to say, oh no. Okay, I'm just happy to be a finalist. And I loved when the stickers came in. That was another moment that just kind of, to see that gold sticker that I've seen on so many books, that could be mine. So another cheery moment at the post office. I mean, you know, so all of these little moments. And then when I found out that I actually won, I was actually at a friend's wedding and my sister was there. And so we're at the wedding reception and I ran up to my sister and I told her, and I told my parents. And so we're literally in the midst of celebrating someone else who has just a huge and momentous night. But it was just so nice in that moment to be like, wow, this was something I didn't even expect. And God answers prayers. And so I think that the other part of it is, and you never know where someone is in this journey as an author, as an illustrator, as someone who's in any profession. But I had really kind of reached a point where I said, I just don't know. I don't know if this is for me. You know, I really think I just need to focus on my 9 to 5 and put my eggs back in that basket. And, you know, this just isn't working out the way, you know, Oprah's book club has not called me yet. Like, this is not working the way that I thought. And I will tell you,
powerful thing.
I'm sorry.
Self-doubt can be a really powerful thing.
And I think that's what I'm trying to hit on. Like, each of the steps before it came, there was doubt. And there was the part of me that I'm not even gonna say, you know, when I say the other voice, that wasn't me. My voice was, you know, go to bed, turn around, let it go, turn this over. That was my voice. I'm just grateful that I had another voice to tell me to keep going. And that's really what it meant to me. And I think that, and I mentioned to you, you know, that I was grateful that you all set this up, you know, so especially so closely after Mr. Pinkley passed away, to be a part of his legacy. And I think that not only am I encouraging other people who would like to submit and participate, but if you on your heart have an opportunity that you think that you can touch someone else's life by honoring them, so they feel seen, because that's really, if I could give it one word, I just felt seen in a moment, a real life moment, not an Instagram moment, not a Facebook Live moment, but a real moment where I felt stuck and I was doubting myself. And I didn't believe in myself. And I felt seen in that moment. And it kind of gives you just another little push to keep you going. And so, you know, I just want to thank you all, because I know it's not easy to sit down and say, I have this idea and I'm going to create this opportunity for other authors, Black authors, you know, who in other categories, my book was in 2021. There are some categories you have to publish your book in the same exact year or the same 6 months or the same this and same that. And you're just like, all of these things, I'm not getting it. I'm not being able to cut my teeth on this. And I keep missing the boat. So for you all to create a space in so many categories, like, I could go on and on about how I felt like it was a true space and I felt seen, incredibly grateful. And I do encourage anyone else out there who might have in the back of their head an idea to honor someone else. I encourage you to do it.
Well, that's a great way to end the segment because unfortunately we've come to the end of the half hour. I guess in a couple of seconds, can you let us know what's next for you?
What is next for me? So my book is on Amazon. So Today Was Not the Same is available on Amazon. And I am preparing to do a really big push for Black History Month, which is coming up.
Okay.
I believe in Black History 365, but we also have February that's around the corner. I am really encouraging everyone to add this book to your child's library and let your child see themselves, even if it's someone who is too young to read at that age, but just being able to pick up the pages and flip through and see themselves as inspiring. So that's what's next for me. And I'm just going to keep working, keep my head up, not get discouraged by Instagram and Facebook Live. And I hope to do this again. This was a lot of fun. I was so nervous going into it, but both of you all actually made this a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
Well, we work together pretty well. You know, we try to make our guests feel comfortable.
We finish each other's sentences.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much once again for joining us tonight. I really enjoyed hearing from you. Congratulations once again on all of your success. And we wish you the best.
Thank you so much. And Happy New Year to you all. Cheers for Happy New Year to everyone. And I look forward to speaking to you all soon.
Okay, good night.
Good night.
All right, well, that is the end of our show. We will be having all 5 of the J. Pinckney Children's Book Award winners on the show in the coming weeks. So Jatrean was the first one. And this is our last show for 2022. And when we see you next, it'll be next year. So Happy New Year. Stay safe out there. And
Happy New Year, everybody.
We're signing off.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.